What I got, you can't buy. It resides between my eyes. Walked through the fire, came out better on the other side. See, life's like a beach if you find the sand. And right now, I feel like 100 grand.
You are listening to Inspired Insider with your host, Dr. Jeremy Wise.
Dr. Jeremy Weiss here, founder of InspiredInsider.com, where I talk with inspirational entrepreneurs like the founders of P90X, Atari, the legendary infomercial king Ron Popeil, many more, how they overcome big challenges in life and business. Our sponsor today is Rise25.com, where entrepreneurs of 6, 7, 8-figure businesses come together live and in person every few months, solve their biggest business challenges, and leave with lifelong friendships. Check out Rise25.com. It's run by myself and co-founder John Corcoran. It's application only. Today I'm very excited. There's some people when they do interviews, they want to interview Oprah or Elon Musk. For me, on my list, no joke, Ed, was Ed O'Keefe. And you will see why in a minute. Today we have Ed O'Keefe. He's father of 7, grew up in a household of 13 children. He's author of the book Time Collapsing, The New Art of Speed, Money, Power, and Meaning. He's used his time collapsing methods to leap to the top of industries, and he's started multiple companies from scratch to multiple 7 and 8, even 8-figure businesses. In dentistry, he sold over $50 million in marketing systems and seminars. He started Marine Essentials and has sold over $60 million in health supplements. And this is all with 7 kids. One of the most impressive things about Ed's resume is Kokoro 40 graduate. 51-hour mini Hell Week created by Commander Mark Devine. Crazy stuff, which we'll talk about. And he has a podcast, the EdO'KeefeShow.com. Check it out. He's also an investor in NoFoods.com, which is a health food company that is disrupting the food industry. Ed, thank you for joining me.
What's up, man? How are you? Yeah. Thanks for
having me. Oh my God,
me.
I have like notes in front of me, 15 pages of notes in front of me. Kokoro, kids, time collapsing, Marine D3, dentist profits, patterns, modeling, losing the friction, freedom question. So we're going to go through a lot of stuff, but
let's do it.
I want to know top of mind. I asked in the beginning what's top of mind for you, and you said no foods.
Yeah, no foods.
And Jesse Itzler, talk about no foods for a second. What are you working on with no foods?
Well, I'm actually like literally. Here's my waffle. I got chocolate chip muffin or chocolate chip waffle for lunch because it's got so much protein in it. It's got good fats in it. It's made of egg whites, chia seeds, flaxseed oil.
And when you buy it, it comes like that, right? It comes
like this. So like literally I got into the office. I'd already eaten some after, and I had a client call. So I was on a client call. I get in the office. I'm sitting there. I'm like, my gosh, the time's flying by. It's 1:30. I got to get my lunch. And I just grabbed 2. Thank God I had in our freezers 2 waffles, and I threw them in. It's 24, 26 grams of protein. Getting all my good fats in, and man, I'll tell you, as Jesse would say, he's eating them like Tic Tacs, like talking about the chocolate chip muffins. Now, here's what I want to say to everybody. So on this, the reason I'm so excited is because the research that we're doing and the people it's all going to come out in the next 60 to 90 days. The doctors that are getting behind this, the data that's coming out on insulin levels and glucose, there's like no spike in glucose levels, which is obviously one of the biggest challenges with obesity, diabetes.
So they're doing testing with those conditions like diabetes.
People are doing it. Yeah, it's a little. Just some of the doctors are doing some blood sugar stuff, and it's not in the open yet, so I can't share too much about that. But it's like the blood sugar is not raising at all eating some of it. So no foods is everyone's going to hear more about it. It's gluten-free, grain-free, peanut-free, dairy-free. I could pitch it all day long.
Not taste-free though.
Tastes phenomenal.
Yeah.
Tastes phenomenal. Yeah, I went into my CrossFit box yesterday. They were like, "Hey, what's in your bag?" And I had 4 of the chocolate chip waffles, and I think 1 was left over for me after all of them devoured it. And
How did you get involved with No Foods?
Yeah, so No Foods. I was at Jesse's house. Yeah, him and his wife Sarah Blakely, who's the founder of Spanx, and my wife and I were there for their charity event they run at their house called Hell on the Hill, which is freaking amazing, by the way. It's literally I cried after Kokoro. I have video of me crying after Hell on the Hill because I'll tell you, Jeremy, there's something sick and nasty about running up a hill. No, you can't run up the hill.
Yeah, describe what Hell on the Hill is.
Hell on the Hill is
because you trained pretty hard for Hell on the Hill, didn't you?
I trained hard for it, and I did not train properly for it because the hill, it's something that Jesse was doing. So he was training for like 100-mile adventure race, and we're talking about Jesse Itzler. Jesse was the founder of Marquis Jets, which was the first, I think it was the first like private, like you can buy your own
like a seat on a private jet type of thing.
Yeah, like you could rent 25 hours of your own.
And they think they sold that to Warren Buffett's company, didn't they?
NetJets. And what's beautiful about the whole pitch, actually, I'll let it go till we get to the freedom question because it actually fits perfectly into that.
One of my favorite chapters of Time Collapse.
Yeah, it
100%. My favorite, yeah.
It's one of the best, the freedom question. We'll get to it. But anyhow, so he was, I think, to train for like a 100-mile race that he was doing, he would just go up and down this hill, And I don't know where the idea came from. I think it's fourth year, and everything that him and his wife do now is for charity. And so my wife and I, Nola, my wife, and I went out there to do it. And what you just can't see on video, if everyone goes and checks out hellinthehill.com, you can't see on videos how actually brutal the pitch is. It's very steep.
You can't tell. I don't think you could tell. Yeah. I watched your Facebook video, and you see people going around, but I don't. Yeah, you can't tell. So
it wasn't until like the 15th lap that I knew I was like in trouble.
And how many? What is
100 laps? It's 100 up and down. And
which one? It was the 13th.
I thought I'll be totally honest with everybody. I thought I was gonna gut it out I was gonna push the pace till I get to 50, and then I was just going to gut out the next 50, like just do my Ed O'Keefe style going inside, enjoying that pain place. The challenge that I didn't realize when in training is that it's very hard to replicate the muscles and the angle you use, your feet, your ankles, your back. And so my wife and I trained, but running up hills. And once you got on Jesse's hill, you realize quickly that if you're not capable of running up it, you can run up it maybe once, but then the way guys did it quickly is they ran down and then they paced very fast up. Mm-hmm. And so it was rough, bro. I mean,
talk about the end. So this was emotional for you.
Yeah, yeah, very emotional for me. I mean, I was doing it for charity. I was doing it for my buddy Jeff Usner's charity, where they do it for orphans whose parents were martyred. It's in I don't know what country it's in. I should know that off the top of my head. And I will personally, when I go into what some people might call a pain cave or whatever, to me it's a very spiritual thing. Yeah. I feel that I just, I've probably had more spiritual moments going to very dark places from a pain perspective of pushing myself to that. And, I just think it was 3 hours of grinding up and down, and the heat got to me a little bit. My wife thought I was a little delirious the last 15 laps. And
probably because you were.
Probably was a little bit, but I was okay. I mean, I wasn't delirious. I wasn't delirious, but and we just so it was it's emotional, man. When you tap in, isn't it one of the most cleansing experiences to tap into parts of your neurology and your spirit and your gut that I think is really getting embraced by our society today, and it's a really beautiful thing. The amount of people that like that's the fact that Spartan races, Tough Mudders, CrossFit, endurance competitions are things that people get to do. It's not about the race; it's about who you become in the process of the race. Right. And also, the other thing I would say that's very, very cool is that you have when you do those types of things, you create like a brotherhood and a sisterhood and a family by crying together.
The bonding.
Metaphorically. Bleeding together, like my guys from Kokoro Camp, I mean, there's a relationship there because we were there at 3 a.m., 40 some hours in.
Yeah. It's sort of like time collapsing a brotherhood in a sense.
Well, it zero question is. I mean, it's suffering. When you suffer together, there's something powerful about that.
Yeah. What does your pain place look like? Gutting it out in
your
pain place.
Yeah. So
because people, I love your perspective on these things because whether it's business or health or whatever it is, it helps get through those tough points or moments.
Yeah. So the way I do this is I have and I got to thank Mark Divine for some of it. So so I have like this place where I can go that behind me or to my right is a line. This is kind of messed up, just so everyone knows this. I realize that.
Well, this is the thing with time collapsing in general. It's sort of, I picture it merging the soft stuff and the hard tactical business stuff.
Yeah, zero question. Well, hard life stuff, like some tactical whatever. So I coach volleyball. When we work with my daughter's team and we coach volleyball, you have to have technique and you have to have strategies and tactics, but you also have to have breath work, mental positivity, and like what's not seen. Yeah. So in my little pain cave or whatever you want to call it, I don't even really call it. I mean, I guess it's where you go. I have a lion to my right. I have a wolf behind me. I have a gorilla that's there, and it's kind of a foresty place where like there's almost like it's like fall where there's leaves on the ground, and then I have a cheetah when I have to run or do anything that would require the heart rate spiking. So what happens, Jeremy, is my goal of using these animals is so that when I need them to take over my body, they show up and do that. Yeah. And then I then pick people when I got to do different tasks that are very, very hard. So one of my coaches is Chris Smith, former Navy SEAL, and he actually works with our Time Collapsing Academy, our Platinum Mastermind. You've met Chris, right?
Yeah.
African-American dude. He's out at Trident CrossFit, and he was one of my Kokoro coaches, and I've gotten to know him very well. One of the evolutions we did in Kokoro was it was late at night, 40-some hours in, it's cold, it's whatever, but his evolution was, the whole model was 100% of the time. Yeah, 100%.
I was going to say one thing that, with the Kokoro, I remember like, oh, this seems amazing, I want to do this, and then I think I heard a quote from someone who's like, who does multiple Ironman saying it's the hardest thing they've ever done in their life, and I was like, oh, maybe I shouldn't do Kokoro, just to give people a perspective on what it is a little bit. So
I'll do that. Let me just finish this.
Go ahead.
So Kokoro Camp was created by Mark Divine, Navy SEAL Mark Divine, Commander Navy SEAL Mark Divine, out in Encinitas, California. Phenomenal man, phenomenal cadre of instructors, and it's designed to be a mini Hell Week. It's for civilians, and it wasn't always designed that way. It's actually a training program he designed for guys prepping to go into the special operations. Right. So Navy SEAL guys prepping to become Navy SEAL candidates. And there was a few in our class. And it wasn't until I think one day, if I know the story correctly, that he saw a man in his class who had gray hair, and he's like, "What are you doing here?" And the guy said, "I want to see if I have what it takes," or something to that effect. Right. I stumbled across it because if you look on YouTube, you type in Kokoro Camp or Kokoro and CrossFit athletes, there was like one of the first ones that made it popular was there's a lot of pro level CrossFit athletes in the class. It scared the crap out of me, man.
Yeah. So 100%, 100, or what were you going to say with Chris Hill?
Yeah. I'll get that.
Okay, go ahead.
And so Mark Divine created this, and so there's a lot of like you could look on. I mean, people get seriously injured during it. Unfortunately, a candidate died this year.
Oh my God.
He had an aneurysm, and so it's not a joke. It's
not a joke at all. Yeah.
Like it's in that actually is what makes it a beautiful thing to be in it. Like they say. I mean, I don't know. It's a very hard thing to like David Goggins, who I had on my show recently, posted a video of Now, was it a video? No, it was on his Facebook feed where he talked about his writing's actually really, really good, Goggins. And he talks about a guy who was in his class who was one of the like team leaders or somebody who was just super strong all the way through Hell Week. And then at like day 3.5, 4, Goggins noticed he was bleeding from his mouth. And everybody by that time had some bang up or whatever. And what Goggins said that he didn't know was that the man's body was failing. And that in the water evolution, the guy died. Okay.
Wow.
All right. So now, most civilians, most natural human being is going to feel a bunch of sympathy for that. But when you surround yourself with like a warrior archetype, right?
Yeah.
They've made it up in their frickin' mind that they are either going to go through it or they are going to die doing it.
Right.
Like it's a very hard thing for most people to understand. And so one of the coolest things about Kokoro Camp is the day before you go in, because you go in at 8 a.m., you check in at 7 a.m., 8 a.m. From that point on, for the next 51 hours, no one has contact with you. Your parents, your spouse, all that stuff. And so there's that feeling of like you're about to go into the abyss and there's no turning back and there's no one there to rescue you. They're not there to kill you. They're there to support you and coach you through it and make sure and they have medical staff on stuff. But that's one of those cool things where the only solution you have is to go internal and see what you're made of. Right. And that's where people find a part of themselves that they've never met before.
Right.
Okay.
Yeah.
So that's the beauty of that. And you can do that in more ways. You don't have to go do Kokoro. You could do some crazy ass evolution like Hell on the Hill, or set a timer and every minute for 90 minutes do 3 pull-ups. Because where it gets cool is that you're going to do 3 pull-ups in 10 seconds. The first time. And then you got to think. You're by yourself. You're thinking for 50 seconds. And then you go to the next time. And then by minute 30, it's taking you 45 seconds to get the 3 pull-ups in. And so it's just this space and time where you got to, like people talk about meditation, well, do that kind of meditation. And you're going to find a part of yourself that now other things become easier, you know?
Right.
And so going back to Chris Smith, so I'll chain it back to this. Yeah. So in my secret little space that now I've got, through that experience, so I had this like secret garden, you know, before I went to Kokoro, and then since did Kokoro and I met some other badass warriors, right?
Yeah.
I've added them to the garden. Like, so Chris Smith, when I need him, I'll hear his voice behind me going, all right, O'Keefe, 100% of the time. And he's got a different edge to him, and his edge then gets to go inside my body, and I can do that. There was a couple instructors that were really good runners who, in some of the evolutions, I paced myself off their heels. And
you just visualize them running. Just
visualize it. It's
Gotcha.
just all made up, man.
Gotcha.
It's all flipping made up.
So it's not always them saying something, it's you visualizing them doing something too.
Like, yeah, so I'll put Navy SEAL Mark James like 6 feet ahead of me when I need to run, have a good pace, because he just like is like a gazelle. And you know, there's other stuff I did for cold training and stuff prior to that was cool, and we could talk more about that. Like I imagined that there was a campfire up on the edge of the Pacific Ocean that I could go when I was doing, and I didn't really need it much when we were in the water.
So for each instance, you were anticipating where you would need to go in yourself.
Yeah, I just did. For training was almost harder than Kokoro because you're by yourself. You have a lot of unknowns. I had some really cool experiences that were more spiritual that involved my pain cave, and maybe we share this later on. But actually,
go for it.
So one of the things this is kind of hard to like for people that don't. I think everyone can relate to some level. A lot of people know the CrossFit workout called Murph, which is after Michael Murphy, who was, I don't know what his title was, but he was the lead of the Navy SEAL team that had Marcus Luttrell, And in fact, hey, could you open your browsers? Or actually, doesn't matter. I want to give. I don't want to.
Yeah, I could do it. What do you want me to look up?
Operation Red Wing, the team. Because I don't want to just say Marcus Luttrell. There it is, Navy SEALs. I want to give full credit to the whole crew.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay, so it was Matthew Axelman, which they called Axe, Danny Dietz, Marcus Luttrell, and then Lieutenant Michael Murphy. So Murph, the workout, for the people who don't realize, is 1 mile run, 20 pound or 25 pound vest on. Now, I was training for Kokoro, so we have rucksacks. So my rucksack was either 25, 30 pounds, right?
Mm-hmm.
And it's a 1 mile run. I'm trying to think. I don't know. 100 pull-ups, 200 push-ups, 300 body squats.
Wow.
1 mile run, right? So you could do this unbroken. You could do it in like stages of 1 mile run, and then you could do like 5 pull-ups, 10 push-ups, 15 body squats. That's the most common route. I've liked doing 3-6-9 is actually really good too. You just get really dizzy getting up and down. But the quote unquote official Murph workout, if you're doing it, is doing it straight through. So where you do the mile run, then you do 100 pull-ups with the rucksack on.
Wow.
200 and then 300, right? And then so I'm in full gear prepping for Kokoro, and I mean, man, let me just say, there's freaking athletes that are way better than me at this. So there were some guys I met there that were just so impressive. So this is not at all about my physical capabilities. One of the goals they said though is that you should be able to do Murph under an hour. Now, if I break it up, I was able to do it easy in 45 minutes, and then actually after Kokoro, I did it under 40 minutes. So, so for me that was, but 1 hour straight through. I think my initial baseline time was like 105, 106, and then I had training for about 4 weeks. And by the way, I went to Kokoro about 7 weeks after deciding to go.
Wow, I didn't realize that.
Yeah, because I was planning on going. No, maybe like 8 weeks. I was planning on doing it in February.
It's not a lot of time.
It's not a lot of time. And it's I was planning on doing it in February, and after I started training for like 2 weeks, my wife was about to kill me because guys, I mean, I was walking around my house with a rucksack on, boots, changing diapers.
You were just putting kids in the rucksack or carrying them around?
I literally, I'd be like, can I go for a walk? And she's like, why do you need to go for a walk? I'm like, because I got to get my mileage. I got to get space. And so I'd take the babies, go for a walk. I have twins. And so Murph, this was kind of like I was about to start tapering, but I had to hit some benchmark mental key components. Like, this is what you don't understand. This is like the difference between being around super high level guys is they look at life. There's a lot of black and white, meaning I either do X or I die, or I either do this or I fail. Like there's, at that highest level of competition, the switch has to be very, very, very focused. You can't be like, well, if I sort of don't hit this goal, it's okay. Like, so I had certain criteria in my head. One of them was running, an 8-minute mile for 13 miles or whatever. And I didn't hit that, by the way. But I was able to do it for 6 miles, and then I started tapering off. And there were certain criteria SEAL Fit gave us, and one of them was it was very important for me to be able to kick ass on this Murph walk. Like Jeremy, I was psychotic at this point, so I'm going through it, and I started realizing that I was getting close to 50 minutes in. I was like around 48 minutes. And I had like 50 more body squats to go. So I had to bang these out. And usually before you run a mile, you don't want to be over suffering before you even get on the road to run the next mile. Because every time I've done Murph in the past, that last mile always sucks. You always feel like you don't want to do it at all.
Right.
And now I had a time limit. And so I think I'd left the at CrossFit gym to run the mile right around 50 minutes, 50. And I know in the past, when I've done the last mile, it usually takes around 10 minutes. So I was fucking hurting. I was running. I got to the halfway point, and I had already been in my pain cave, and I was pushing myself, but there was a space that there were voices in my head that wanted to tell me that I wasn't good enough to do this.
Interesting.
And yet here it was like, maybe this isn't for you. Maybe you aren't ready. Maybe you can't do this. And I was like, what the fuck? And I don't know what the craziest thing is, but okay. So story for everybody is that I had a brother that died a year and a half before I was born.
Wow. My
brother Michael passed away at the age of 15 or 16, right?
Wow. Sorry to hear that. Jeez.
Thanks. But here was the most amazing fucking thing ever. Sorry for the swears. I know you're right.
Rock it. No.
Edit it before you send it to your minister.
No, I don't edit at all. Yeah.
I was just started praying, like, give me what I need this. Like, and I felt my brother come over my body. And it was I can get emotional thinking about it, and it just like it was like the coolest thing ever, because like the lion was up, the wolf was in me, everything was happening, and it was like that last 4 blocks or that last half mile, I came running in. I made it by 2.5 minutes, my time, and there's nobody in the gym. It's me by myself.
Right.
Fall to my knees and start crying like I haven't cried in so long.
Yeah.
And so nothing at Kokoro replicated that.
Wow.
Like that.
It was all in the training.
Some teary eyes near the end there, but that training. I mean, what a beautiful place. And so now,
glory. Yeah.
Once you go there and you create that experience, no one can take that away from you. You always have that. You can always tap into that, right? And so that's why I like going and being around people that are doing cooler, tougher, crazier things than me, because it allows me to tap into that warrior part of us, which I personally believe that all of us have it. Even the women, the men, the whatever. I'm seeing more men and women do amazing things. It's just a great thing. And, so I don't know where we went, but that's...
I know exactly where we went.
That's my long answer.
No, what's interesting, Ed, is after you do that, now what, right? So what do you do now to bring the warrior back?
Yeah, so that's a great question. So like Hell on the Hill was a great outlet because it gave me... gave us, my wife and I, something to look.
And Nola did it too.
She did Hell on the Hill as well. Yeah, she did as well. And everybody, like, we're raising 7 kids, all under the age of 12. So we got.
That's a pain place you gotta go to every day.
I'll tell you, my little chuckle. I always mess around with like I've said this to Mark Devine, Goggins, and other like mental toughness guys. I'm like, just come over to my house between the hours of 4 p.m. and 11 p.m. and see how you make it. See how much mental toughness you got there.
That'd be great.
Yeah, and
instead of living with a seal, it's like living with Ed and Nola and 7 kids.
Oh my gosh, bro! Oh my gosh, I don't know what someone would do. But so like that's something that's a daily grind. Like, but we love it. Like we love the big family. We love the kids. We love it. And so that is what we do, right? So then to answer your question of like what's next, so Jesse's coming out with a new company that, like, right now I'm doing the 2017 challenge with Jesse's group, where you got to do 2017 reps of burpees, push-ups, dips, sit-ups, and body squats in January.
Yeah.
And so I'll do that with CrossFit. That's kind of how I maintain. I kind of slacked over the holidays. And then one thing that I've talked, so he's going to do some cool stuff that I'd love to be a part of. I've talked to my wife about, looking at Tough Mudders. And so I'd like to get on my calendar the 24-hour Tough Mudder challenge, or some of the midnight challenge. I think everybody should do something where they start at like 10 p.m. and they go all the way to 10 a.m. there's something really magical about being up at 4 a.m. and putting out, like, and you haven't slept yet for 24 hours,
Right.
and you experience a different space of what's possible.
Right.
So I'm trying to figure that out, man, to be honest
Yeah.
with you. There's some cool things going on in our businesses that I want to get stabilized. And
So I want to circle back for a second. So
Yeah.
how you got into No Foods, and Hell on the Hill, was that
yeah,
the part where it started?
I can tell you exactly where we're at. So I was on Jesse's back porch. I'm sitting there next to Jens Pulver, who's a UFC world champion, and some of the other guys, my wife, some other great people. And Jesse comes out and handing everybody like these muffins. And I just watched it. Everybody just devoured the muffins. And then I heard Jesse say, oh, it's a new little project we got going on. Well, one success trick I will share with everybody is listen to when people say they're doing stuff, just listen and observe. And then, so what I did, I made a commitment to when I came home from Hell on the Hill. I said, look, I'm just gonna do whatever it takes to help these guys out, like anything. And I knew the health business. I knew how to sell direct to consumer online.
Yeah.
I know though, that's my world. I can frickin' sell stuff online.
Yeah.
And I have a lot of relationships, we have clients right now that are doing, $30,000, $40,000, $100,000 in sales every day in online marketing, direct to consumer. So if we added No Foods or any of our packages to the back of their sales system,
Right.
it would just it would make everyone's life better. But what would really grab my attention, Jeremy, is when I came home and I started buying. I bought like 10 people who are uber authorities. I was gonna say authoritative authorities in health, fitness, and wellness. Like they're way beyond they're at the next level. Ben Greenfield, Mark Devine, Tom DeLauer, Drew Canoli. I sent one to Rick Steele, who's he's just a badass in a lot of ways, and then a few other people. All of them, when they looked at all the ingredients, tasted it, were like, wow, I've been telling my clients they can't have bread. Now they can have bread. And muffins again. They can have burger buns. They can have all these things because No Foods reinvents and reimagines like what breads are.
Right.
Because it's not made of starch and flour and all these whites and stuff that spike the insulin levels, I mean, it's really crazy. So when I did that, so what happened was, long story short, was how I got to invest in it was I started doing all this help. I got like 10 to 15 testimonials for them. I did I had an 80-page research report based on it. I still haven't even shared it all yet because it was just timing. I just got on the phone with the CEO, and he's like, well, we're closing up the friends and family round. And I said, oh, really? What does that mean? Oh, can I get in? And then I went to my wife and said, let's double down here. So we doubled down on this, Yeah.
And go ahead.
Yeah. Here's one thing I realized too, Jeremy. Like, people talk about mastermind groups, which I have one. You're a part of them. You come to ours.
They're amazing, yeah.
And I know you're in Brian Kurtz's, and then Joe Polish, all in our circle. All of these guys do phenomenal jobs. There's also another form of masterminding when you align your interests with other highly successful people by being an investor that gives you access and opportunity that I never really realized was there. And when I say opportunity, I don't mean opportunity to take, but opportunity to contribute and be a part of something that's much, much, much greater than what I would be doing on my own.
Yeah. Yeah. And one of the things
that is probably the biggest revelation this past year to share with everybody.
Yeah.
That alone. So if I think one of the new habits in my life are going to be is to look for these big, disruptive opportunities where I can help and contribute and just and be a part of it. Yeah.
Yeah. Something you could stand behind, something is a bigger vision and attracts good people.
Attracts phenomenal people. Yeah, totally with you, bro. Yep.
So what you've learned from Jesse, being a friend of Jesse Itzler. You were going to talk a little bit about that.
Oh, well, no, you asked me, you were asking me like what's new, and I was saying, okay,
Yeah.
well, no foods, and so Jesse Itzler is somebody that if anyone has a chance to see him speak or get to meet him, you should take up that opportunity. I think by being around him and his wife, and I've been with Sarah briefly a few times, meeting their kids, being around the people that they surround themselves with, they're doing it the right way. They're just fucking great people. I mean, just flat out. And so my exact comment to my wife was when we were at their house, because we didn't know them. Like I had him on my podcast. I was helping him. I think you were helping him get on some podcasts. And again, I just liked them, and I was like, I'm going to help this guy any way I can, not really knowing how. But everybody says, here's one thing I want to tell everybody. Here's another big tip. If I say, hey, Jeremy, what can I help you with today? You may have something that I can specifically help you with. But most people, especially really, really successful people, are going to be like, oh, thanks, man. Yeah, I'm good right now. They're all going to say that. So instead of asking that question, listen to what they're working on and what they're doing, and then just go work for free. Because positive stuff, I want people around. You do this very well, Jeremy. I mean, I think one of your best gifts is you're just ridiculously selfless at every level.
Thank you.
And people like having you around because of that. Because I think, so I don't want to go off on a tangent on takers, but most people are. They're always like looking for what's in it for them. So I just think if people have an opportunity, but one thing I said to my wife was, I go, he's a lot like me. And what I meant by that was, I watched how he treated people around him, and as busy as he is, he always is making sure people around him are taken care of and good. And I don't mean like taken care of but like just simple things like, hey, you guys good? You guys need water or anything? Simple things like that.
Right.
And they made us feel very at home. Kish is, so the only other thing that I would say by being around him is that he thinks very big. And at our Time Collapsing Mega Conference, he said on stage that his superpower is he just does it. And then he also had said one other thing I guess I can share, because I'm a modeler, right? So I listen to these founders.
Yes.
Is that he's willing to do almost anything without worrying about what it might make, like the embarrassment or how stupid you might look or you may fail. And just, if everybody just took that phrase and put it in their head like a microchip and just lived that model of the world, like what if I just lived a week thinking like, I don't really care at all about failure at all. I'm just going to frickin' try stuff.
Right.
Then when you start asking bigger questions, like the freedom question, when you get to that, you all of a sudden start being like, fuck it, let's just go do it. And I might make a fool out of myself, but it's better than me sitting in my fucking house pretending like someday I will be successful, or maybe I will go do that. And I would say the other thing is that life becomes a much bigger adventure when you're willing to try stuff,
Talk about that for a second. So one of my favorite chapters in Time Collapsing, I have it for all you. It's behind you. I have it actually right here. I don't know if you can see it. Is the freedom chapter and the freedom question. So I wanted to have you talk about that. How did you come and realize the freedom question?
So to give everybody like a little bit of background, when I was 23 to 27, I was pretty much broke. It wasn't until like 26, 27 that I started making money. But I was trying to figure out entrepreneurship, right? And one of the things that I realized was that, when I studied Tony Robbins and stuff like that he learned neuro-linguistic programming. So I'm like, all right, cool. Well, I'm going to go learn neuro-linguistic programming because I'm going to be the next Tony
Early
Robbins.
on, you wanted to be a motivational speaker.
I mean, I was, I how successful I was at it, I don't know, but the secret was, I just, one of the things I did very well between 23 and 27, and what's beautiful about being broke when you're younger or even older is, younger, I had time to go do all these seminars. And something I thought mentally was that if I became world class at being a neurolinguistic programmer and hypnosis, Ericksonian hypnosis, money would follow. Well, that wasn't totally true, but but those skill sets I developed supported me forever. So if you read the book Time Collapsing, you'll notice that so much of what I built inside there is based on the tools I used in neurolinguistic programming. It's not a book about neurolinguistic programming, just to be very clear. So neurolinguistic programming means, like, part of it means when I hear people's language patterns, if I can replicate their language patterns, I could then understand, I could almost replicate what they're producing in their head, and usually emotional states and behavior. I just simplified it. But one of the things I noticed when I was studying a lot of these time collapsers, people that I think have done extraordinary things in ridiculously short times, from high performance athletes all the way to, billionaire entrepreneurs, is they asked a question like, wouldn't it be cool if we could do blank, or wouldn't it be great, or wouldn't it be awesome? Yeah. And so the freedom question is that most people are stuck in like limitation. So one way to quickly shift the energy from being of limitation to being of one of momentum and opportunistic thinking and power and momentum, and to actually future pace yourself past, because there's 3 exercises in that chapter that walk you through that, but walk you past your limitations and then get your vision out of it. Because a lot of times people say to me, they'll be like, I don't really know how to set my goals. And well, you start with the freedom question, because it'll shatter a lot of your limitations, right? Yeah. And so when I listened to like Jesse's thing when he was with Marquis Jets, he said, like, wouldn't it be cool if his first time being on a private jet, if we could do this all the time? Or wouldn't it, I don't know exact language.
You studied that, yeah.
His wife, Sarah Blakely, if you listen to her language pattern, was Spanx. What she really said was, wouldn't it be great if we had pantyhose that didn't run up your leg, and I didn't have to like wear all the way down to my toes, something like that, Right. Like, but you didn't go up your ass, She didn't use that languaging, but I mean. And then if you look at like Uber, wouldn't it be great if we didn't have to deal with these stupid taxis and blah blah blah? And
big disruptions come from that freedom question.
Yeah. So the freedom question, like, wouldn't it be great if we were able to make a bread that didn't have flour, preservatives, and spiked insulin? There's no one doing that. Like Steve Hanley, the CEO at No Foods, that's what he was asking. And so what I started realizing was, I think Elon Musk, and I haven't done much studying with Elon stuff, but like, look at all the inventions that he's creating. He's got to be asking, like, it'd be so cool to sit and listen to him, like, like, wouldn't it be cool if we were able to put solar panels on every single house in America and blank,
And what's cool about that is it allows you to get past your limitations. And what's interesting, Adam, with doing the research, you had this modeling project. This is fascinating to me. You had this modeling project where you wanted to kind of learn the world views of people.
Yeah.
And one thing you did was you took all Will Smith's interviews.
Yeah.
And you transcribed it.
How'd you know?
I do my research. And you transcribed it.
Yeah.
So what did you find? And I'm curious what you found. I'm curious who else you did this with.
I still got to create a video on him. I did it with Tyler Perry. I did it with Oprah. I did it with it's kind of a project I started like 2 years ago, and I just kind of dropped it.
It's pretty amazing.
So tell your listeners, if they want me to do it, to like ping me on Facebook.
I am fascinated by it. What did you find with Will Smith? And I'm curious what you find with some of the other ones too.
Yeah. So Will Smith, Will Smith's a phenomenal person to listen to. So if you want to do a modeling project and take his language patterns and stick them inside your own neurology. Yeah. So imagine like the Matrix, they shove the thing in the back of the guy's head and it's like, oh man, he can go into that. Well, what if we could do that as human beings? Mm-hmm. Like, what if we could just say, okay, Jeremy has this belief system, because really we're making it all up as we go. Yeah. And the frame that we choose is the frame that we use, right? I've never said that before, but that sounds pretty cool.
It's a tweetable.
Hey, whatever. But so with Will Smith, there's a couple things, So a phrase that he uses when he was talking about when he was. I haven't looked at this in a while, so you're catching me off.
No, go ahead. I just
When he did the movie Happiness, what is it called?
Pursuit of Happiness. Yeah.
Is he said the quote, and I see it right now in my mind. He goes, what Chris and I had in common was that we both came from spiritual households, that what we thought and believed were real in the universe. And that, I don't want to put these words in his mouth, but I'll say this, and that, if we can say it, that the world will go out and create it, and it'll happen. Mm-hmm. Like reality, it's substance. And then he talks about Paulo Coelho and the Alchemist. This is shit that like Will Smith talks about, right? So what I wanted to say there was, instead of just like being like, okay, cool, that's what Will Smith is because he's this mega superstar, that's his deal. No, I want to say, what if I was able to take Will's thought process and say, okay, so this week I'm going to live that I'm going to believe Will's stuff is real, which is every thought I have is real, and it's going out and it's going to magnetize and pull that in there. Everyone listening is going like, well, that's the law of attraction. Yeah, but my question to you is, do you believe it at the same level Will Smith does, right? The other thing that okay, go ahead, and I have one more thing for Will Smith.
No. I was just going to say, and what you also talk about is you talk about taking action on that. I mean, that creates action.
Well, a frame that you use in NLP is called act as if. And a lot of people have heard that. Yeah. But if you act as if something's real, you see doorways that didn't exist prior to that.
Right. So yeah, go on. You were going to say something else about Will Smith?
I'm just pulling up it. It's been 2 years since I've been in this, right? So he had a couple things, right? So then I took his like value systems and his identity, and I said, I'll read a couple of them for you.
Yeah,
guys.
Go ahead.
So his frames based on, so what I started doing was taking all his interviews and I started mapping out a couple things, like how does he see himself? So his identity level, then his value structure, then his belief systems, and then what is he? Okay, you guys will like this, right? What is driving Will? And then what is he moving away from? So he talks about, okay, this is kind of interesting stuff. I like this. So you're getting me going on the shit that I like talking about, bud. All right, so let me just move my document over so I can read off of it.
Yeah.
He says, I'm the hardest worker. I'm willing to die on a treadmill. He talks about like the difference between him and the reason why he's successful as an actor and nobody else is because he's willing to die on a treadmill. Literal language pattern, right? I can accomplish anything I want, especially if I see the path and plan. So criteria on a strategy for Will is he's not willing to die on a treadmill until he sees a path and plan. Criteria. So when you're modeling somebody, do you have that criteria, right? He's a studier of people. Natural desire to study people. I like to do what's called common math. Like, he talks about like when he would see Chris Rock, right? And he would hear him say something, and then people would laugh. He would love to study, like, well, what made that funny? And he'd dissect what made that funny. And I'll tell you one thing to back up one step, because there was another guy, who was I thinking of recently, who I really, Jamie Foxx was on the Tim Ferriss show. And when you listen to Jamie Foxx, he's a professional modeler, right? Like he knew how to and so are like some of the best artists and celebrities and actors and people. They're modelers, And one other thing that Will said, I mean, I don't want to go too deep into this, but he sees himself as an expert generalist. I can do everything well, but he doesn't pigeonhole himself, which is why he's been able to have this vast range of things. And if you think about, I'm an expert generalist, and you apply that to anything, like I'm seeing in business right now, the guy who is a generalist but is damn good at getting good enough at a high performance level at a lot of things is probably your best CEOs nowadays. The specialist expert gets overpassed very, very rapidly.
Anyone stick out to you that you model or follow in the expert generalist in business?
Well, I mean, I think like if you Right now, who would stick out to me? No, I don't know if I would say anybody because I haven't studied anyone long enough. But here's the
Yeah.
thing I would say. What I've noticed now by spending more time with companies that are looking to disrupt and go to become billion-dollar companies, the people involved have to understand enough about the financial stuff, like with capital, financial metrics, raising capital, the throughput of cash flow. They have to understand enough about operations, and they have to understand enough about marketing and sales so that they're able to pitch this. So, that's a very holistic thing.
Yeah.
And I learned most of my stuff in the trenches. So what I'm really, really good at was definitely learning through trial and error. But I learn a lot. I'm learning stuff every day. So no, but I don't know. I just want to say no right now. But I think our good friend Vinny Fisher is he's definitely an expert generalist. He knows some stuff very, very well, but he's also very smart in the marketing and sales department. And but I want to think I think a guy like Jeff Weiner from LinkedIn.
Who else sticks out to you?
If you're really trying to be a leader of your culture and in your environment.
Yeah.
And for anyone who's listening who wants to be like a leader CEO, he'd be somebody I would go listen to 6 or 7 of his interviews.
Mm-hmm. Who else did you do this with? The modeling and worldview, like Will Smith.
Oprah. I took some Oprah stuff and did that. Mm-hmm. Hugh Jackman, I'm a big fan of. So I think I transcribed some of his things. Art of Modeling Greatness. Yeah, that's all I'm going to share now.
Yeah. I thought that was fascinating that you did that.
Yeah, that's definitely a pet project that I think would be fun to do. The other side I've thought of doing is just taking time collapsing and 2.0 it, is putting some of these modeling cases inside of it.
Yeah. It's like language patterns of the highly successful, whatever it is.
Yeah. And I think once your listeners or people study language, this sounds kind of like bad, I'm going to go study Spanish. No, just listen differently. And then when you hear things like so when I wrote what drives Will Smith? And so what he's moving away from is not screwing up, driven from don't mess it up. And he was talking about an example he uses, and I pulled this from multiple places, where he was going to be Muhammad Ali, and he called Denzel, and Denzel Washington goes, "Oh man, you better not screw it up." The fact,
no pressure.
Yeah. The fact that he shares the story, shares with you that it meant enough emotionally to be a driver inside his, gut.
Yeah.
And so, those are the things that you're like, oh man, I'm going to, that drives him. And then, I love listening to those language patterns.
Yeah, because it's a huge opportunity for him. And we probably have those too. And we may say those things. What I love about the book and what I love about the freedom question is it brings it to the consciousness. So we may do some of these things maybe some of the time. But when you bring it to consciousness, you can actively practice it and do it.
Yeah, well, the freedom question actually opens up how easy things can be. So if you're like, man, wouldn't it be great if we were able to get no foods in every CrossFit gym selling no foods products? Mm-hmm. Or wouldn't it be great if, Inspired Insider was the most listened to podcast on inspiration in America? You start asking different questions.
Right.
You start thinking, okay, how do we make that happen?
Yeah.
Or who do we need to know? And so the strategies come after that. And a lot of times it's just a matter of consciousness and then laying it out and then blocking and tackling to make things happen,
Yeah. I want to hear what your favorite story or chapter is, but I want you to first talk about losing the friction.
So losing the friction is a chapter that I will share with you that it's, I think, chapter 3, and I didn't know if it should have just been put as chapter 15. And my editor did a nice job of saying, no, it's got to be chapter 3. because here's the deal, right? Chapter 2 is talking about the trap, then chapter 3, the trap. And so just to give everyone context, so the trap is that, we're brought into this world. We go to preschool, kindergarten, first, second, third, fourth. You go into high school, 10, 11, 12. You're supposed to go to college. You're supposed to leave college and life's supposed to be perfect. But then you realize, most people are unemployable now. You're not going to make the money you're supposed to make. You marry somebody because you feel like you're supposed to get married. You buy a car, you buy a house, and all of a sudden you're 33, you're in debt, you're married to someone you may not like, you don't know, whatever, and you're not even close to being ahead financially that you thought you would be by that age.
Right. We're painting a great picture here.
Great picture. Great picture.
You're going to have 7 kids living with you in about...
Yeah, you're going to have... Yeah. So I was
8 years? 9 years?
Quite frankly, I'll just share with everybody. At 33, I was and am living the dream. I had 4 kids under the age of 4, and good business, whatever. But just like anybody, we go through challenges and whatever. It's part of marriage, part of business, part of life. That's part of the beauty, right? So, I talk to my parents a lot about how they've been married. They're 85. They've been married 50-something years.
Amazing.
And so.
Forget you. I'm interviewing now.
I'm gonna have my mom on soon. Yeah, I'm on our show, and then she doesn't want any part of it. She's like, I don't want to be on that Facebook TV. Yeah. So that's the trap, and then so the other side is that the reason I put losing the friction is because what I found is that most high performers don't need more stuff to do. They need more distinctions and stuff taking away.
100%.
So if I'm going to go work with a high-level person, my job, if I was a performance coach, I don't feel like I am one-on-one. We work with our clients. We have some stuff we do, the books, is to remove blockages and remove mental filters that are holding them back, remove relationships that are holding them back. One simple thing is, hey, write down the 10 people you spend the most amount of time with. Write the letter N or T next to their names. N is nurturing. T is toxic. How do you end the relationships or quit spending time with the people that have a T next to their name? Guess what? You're going to have more energy. Your time's going to be freed up. You're going to have less obligation. You're going to have all these positive things are going to start happening in your life. And so that's losing the friction chapter. And it's a really powerful one. I think I have 12 steps you can go through to identify and move. Like the obligation. If you feel like you are obligated, get out of the relationship as quickly as possible. Where am I seeking approval? Why am I in something? Because I'm seeking approval. How do I get out of that? How do I stop that?
You said this at your at the Time Collapsing conference, and that really struck me about removing the friction, because it's things we could do in our business for our customers. What friction are we putting up for our customers that shouldn't be there? And also, what friction are we putting in our own system? So when I heard you say that, it was really big, taking things away, because there's things I do with the podcast or whatever it is. Why am I doing it? I'm just creating friction for myself and getting less done. So I love that. Yeah,
I'll give you a really good example. So podcasting is one of those things that I have no idea where my podcast is going.
If you did, I'd be worried about you.
It's an evolving thing.
100%.
But one guy who I liked what he's doing is Mike Rowe from Dirtiest Jobs. You know Mike Rowe?
I know who he is.
Have you ever listened to his podcast?
No, I never have.
It's freaking awesome, man. It's just him telling a story. It's called This Is How I Heard It, and it's 7 minutes long.
Okay.
And it's just him talking. And I was thinking, wouldn't it be cool if I could create a whole podcast without having to book guests and deal with that and whatever? Like what if I just did whatever the frick I wanted to talk about?
Yeah.
Hey, here's is it true that Trump was having sex with a in a Russian bathhouse with 20 men? I don't know. And have like a podcast about that. Just why? Because it's funny. Do you want to talk about it? I probably wouldn't talk about politics, but here's the thing that I learned this week. Boom, share it. And that's 7 minutes. I could talk for we've been talking for we could have 10 podcasts with just this episode with that model. So I think I have a couple more I have some really good interviews that we've done, but
you could do something easy, like just take a chapter of your book. You could do 10 of them per chapter or something.
You know what I was thinking of doing, man? Yeah. I was thinking just literally picking out a paragraph and then read the paragraph and then don't even go into it, but go you know what, where I got this idea, right, and then go off on a totally different story that has nothing to do with giving more of the book.
Yeah, well, that's what we just did. I mean, essentially the freedom question. I'm curious from a reader and implementer standpoint where the background came from. So it was interesting to hear the NLP, and then you added in the color because really, the book is 10% of the whole story, maybe less than that, of how you came to it. So I find that very fascinating, the NLP stuff, and then that's interesting with the modeling stuff, but it's the freedom question chapter. So
yeah, it's pretty cool.
Yeah. So I love that. But for you, in the book, are there any particular chapters or concepts that get overlooked, or your personal favorites?
I would say definitely the chapter 21, when your soul awakens. Chapter 20, the ghost of your past self.
Why? What's when your soul awakens? Why is that overlooked, or why is that your favorite?
The soft side of success, because that's more where I'm at right now. This was a book I felt I needed to write. This is the book that is in my opinion, literally the tool book for how to be successful and how to block and tackle. And here's the yin and yang of success. Mm-hmm. And now that I've written it, I think I'm going to go write more stuff that I just want to talk about, like the ghost of your past self. I started writing a country song called "The Ghost of Your Past Self." Swear to God, I was like, I have some friends in the country music business. I'm like, man, I'm gonna write.
Was this inspired by your Nashville conference?
No, this was inspired recently, where I was just like, I love country music, and I was like, man, I was thinking about the man's desire to always have an adventure in life, even as they get older. And it's about a conversation with the woman he's in love with, his wife, and he's saying how we are the ghosts of our past selves. And he talks about how, and so in the book I talk about how the reason why I've always evolved from business to business, and why I feel like an evolving positive virus,
That's the new title of your book. An evolving positive virus.
Yeah, I know. The next book's called Permission.
Is that you were definitely doing the next book?
Yeah, there's a couple books in line, but the Permission, I wrote the outline today, and it's
that's a great title.
Thank you. So you better not. No one better steal it. But it's I literally it was boom. There it was today. Wrote it this morning at breakfast. I've had it in my head.
The best books have a 1-word title like that you get it all. Yeah, go on.
Yeah, 21 ways to free yourself and live an inspired life, or inspire the world, something like that. And so it's just really about, because what everyone's secretly wanting. This is the big fucking secret, everybody. We're all looking for somebody to give us permission to go become ourselves, just be ourselves. That's all you're asking for. You mean I really love doing podcasts? I really love talking to people. You mean I can get paid freaking talking to people? Well, I don't know, but go for it. You're going to find out, right? Hey, I kind of want to go play music. All right, well, fucking go play music. I want to go, go live in a different climate. Go live in a different climate. I mean, what is the worst thing that's going to happen? You're going to find out you don't like living in a different climate, or you're going to find heaven. One of the two, So I think, So I mean, that's I was probably talking about something prior. Oh, so the ghost of your past self, and then when your soul awakens, is about the next evolution of. It comes from the Carl Jung think I talk about it a little bit here, like, the Carl Jung idea of, it's right here, buddy. Give me one more second.
Go ahead.
Wayne Dyer has a movie called The Shift. Did you see it?
No, I didn't.
You've heard me recommend this like 5 times.
I've gotten several books that you recommended, so don't get on me too bad. Yeah.
No, it's a movie.
No, I know.
It's on YouTube. It's free.
All right. It's on the list now.
Yeah, just play it in the background. I've literally watched this thing probably 30 times.
Really?
Literally.
The Shift.
Sometimes I'll just play it right now while I'm working. And it starts off with like a Carl Jung quote, which just says, "Thoroughly unprepared, we take the step into the afternoon of life. Worse still, we take the step with the false presupposition that our truths and our ideals will serve us hitherto. But we cannot live the afternoon of life according to the program of life's morning. For what was great in the morning, for what was true in the morning, will be little at For what was great in the morning will be little at evening, and what in the morning was true at evening will have become a lie."
Yeah.
Let me break that down.
I've heard you say that. Yeah, go on.
So I'm 41 right now. So when I look back at being 28, I wish I could have told myself a couple things. But the rules that I operated through in the life that I thought was success, now, like, those were the rules in the morning. Now we're in the afternoon. Mm-hmm. It's like, dude, those were so much of that is not important. And then as I move into this next chapter of life, which I plan on living a long life, God willing and health willing, that doing stuff of meaning and stuff that inspires me and stuff that energizes me and makes a difference is way more important to me than just accumulating or doing things because, so that's some stuff that most people probably don't get that far into the book, so.
But you have to go through that at the time when you're 28, right, to experience where you're at now.
I think there's definitely a part of that,
So I want to kind of pick up with the NLP stuff for a second, and because your next thing was dentist profits.
Yes,
right?
Dentist profits.
Dentist profits. So why dentists?
Well, so I'm gonna give you the quick version because we just went from all this great, awesome stuff talking about dentistry.
No, but I think there's some cool things that you're gonna hit on here.
So one of my first businesses that actually made any money, even though I don't know if it was profitable or not, was called like the Coaching Success System or Ultimate Volleyball Mental Toughness System, which I think if you look on Google, it would show up, I realized that all my mentors that I was buying stuff from, who were saying that they were making 30 grand a month, 50 grand a month, whatever, they were selling to business owners or people that had money. And here I was selling to like coaches who had no money. Yeah. And I realized, man, I'm in the wrong business. I know I wanted to make money. And I think this is like one of the things I wrote down, like in permission to ask for more. It is okay to say like, hey, look, I want to go make 7 figures. I want to experience.
No one has a book called Permission.
Yeah, no one has a book.
Wow.
Let's get it.
That's a great. You better buy the domain now. Who owns the domain Permission?
Oh, let's find out.
Wow. That's it's a phenomenal title.
Yeah, Seth has Permission Marketing. Seth Godin.
Okay. Yeah.
Permission.org. Say what's up, Seth. Once Tim and I become friends, we can the book Permission.
So you modeled and you saw these people selling B2B at the time.
Yeah, and I was like, hey, they're making money. I'm gonna go do that. And so I did a little research, and the end goal was that it's a white collar market. They had money. I knew nothing about dentistry, And we just used modeling, and I licensed licensed sales copy, and I licensed the product and from different industry and moved it over to this industry.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
But how you came up with it, I thought was fascinating. With the
yellow pages.
The yellow pages.
So yeah,
because people can still use that concept in anything.
Yeah.
You know.
So I think most people fail to do research, to be honest with you. But so what I always teach is when you get into business, so like you want to make this as fail proof as possible. So you want to get as many models and criteria met. And one of the big criteria you want to make is in that business, the goal was to look at every industry, like blue collar, white collar, in the yellow pages. And this is before really the internet was you couldn't really do research in the internet. And so what's crazy about it was I just went through I had a yellow legal pad of paper and just little tabs, and was marked, contractors, 1 page of a yellow page ads, realtors, 40, chiropractors, 18, dentists, 22. And what that told us was real estate market was very competitive. Chiropractors, there was already somebody in that market who was doing similar stuff to what we were going to be teaching. And dentistry, there was not a competitor similar to what we were doing. It was kind of new marketing at the time, direct response.
Yeah.
And so we entered the dental market.
Mm-hmm. There's a couple things that I find interesting about dentist profits. One was the way you came up with it. Two was this a time where you were getting really into learning and writing copy? At what point did that happen? Because I think that's a skill set. I consider you, even though you don't consider yourself a copywriter, I consider you one of the top people who writes copy.
Thanks, dude. Yeah. Very nice.
So who are you studying at the time?
And a sales copy for my mental toughness business, right? And then, so I had to get up. I mean, it was all about sales copy back then, and it still is in some ways now.
It is, 100%.
Whether it's video or audio or whatever.
Whether you want to sell your book, I mean, all of it's copy. Yeah.
Yeah. And so, and quite frankly, that opened up a lot of doors. Because at the age of 27, I looked like a pro on paper.
Who were you learning from at the time?
Jeff Paul, Dan Kennedy, Gary Halbert, John Carlton.
Mm-hmm.
And just handwriting sales letters in the morning, then typing them out, and that was my system. And then, what I didn't really understand back then, Jeremy, was I didn't understand cash flow management like I wish I did. The dental niche, our cost per lead was so much higher than what like the chiropractor was experiencing or what the realtor was experiencing.
Really?
Yeah. And I think that's because in like a chiropractic office, still to today, you can send a direct mail piece to a chiropractor's office and chances are he's going or she's going to open it or it's going to get to them. And in a dental office, there's more gatekeepers, I think. Right?
100%.
Yeah. So
well,
I think
one, I'm a chiropractor. Two, my dad's a dentist. So I can tell you there's a lot more gatekeepers in the dental office for sure.
Yeah, zero question. So I think that's one of the key things as well.
The other thing I found interesting, Ed, was when I was doing the research, two things that did the best in the dentist profits, which I wanted you to talk a little about, is two niche coaching clubs.
Yeah, niche coaching clubs. So this is the thing where, the secret to like, I'll tell you, I was on the phone with a client right before I got on this call.
Yeah.
And he's got a product that's working, and he's telling me about a new product he's going to create to a different market. I was like, dude, stop. You have something that's working. You need to drive it out and find out what else they want. And what I think most people underestimate is the level of effort that's required to push the boulder uphill
Right.
to get it to start moving downhill.
Right.
And so I had probably gone 2 years into the dental business where I was making money, but I was still like, it was month to month. And it's when I started figuring out, like, I started listening to my clients, and they would say something like, kind of like, wouldn't it be great, very much like the freedom question, if you were able to just train our staff for us? And I was like, all right, cool. And then a consultant came around that I really liked. We got along great. So we started a business together. That business was a total smash. And then I started noticing all my most successful clients came from a particular niche, like of dentists, like a specialty.
Like implants or something like that.
They were general dentists who also did implants.
Yeah.
And so I created an entire coaching program just for that niche. And that was a smash hit,
Yeah. I could tell, like, obviously the time collapsing is your passion right now. When I go to the dentist practice, it's like, I don't care about talking about this.
Yeah,
but I think there's a couple key things in there that I think are important that you use now.
That's right. Like, if you look at the chapter in my book called "The Ghost of Your Past Self,"
Yeah.
the guy back then was a ghost. Like, that guy does not exist anymore. He was a trail that I've left behind, And so
the concepts live on, though. Like, from your motivational speaking days, the NLP stuff lives on. The copywriting lives on. Doing the niche, like, your mastermind is specifically niche to people who have health businesses.
No, it isn't.
Well, one of them is.
Well, it started off that way,
Yeah.
but then when I started meeting guys that wanted to be in the mastermind, they weren't health guys. Maybe you didn't know this, but then we opened it up. So here's the other thing.
Yeah.
We started realizing that there was a lot of guys who didn't even know that they should have a health division of their business, who were selling, like, say, survival stuff or e-commerce widgets, like, and they should be in the health business, but they didn't even know they could. And all of a sudden, they're in the health business, and they're instantly profitable because they added a health department. We have a guy who's like a med spa clinic who now has a health division. And he's like, well, we were just giving, like, vitamin D shots or whatever they were doing in the, blood transfusions. I'm kind of joking, but like, so now the opportunity for everybody expands. So I get bored, and so like, there's people that look in the past and they live in the past, and that's okay. I really am future focused, and there's pros and cons to that. The con is that sometimes you don't drive out what is a big opportunity sitting right in front of you because you're like, yeah, but that's who I was, in the past,
Yeah.
I mean, I literally could go back in the dental profession and do exactly what I was doing, update it to this day, create a story around, well, I'm back and I have all this new stuff, and we could very quickly ignite excitement,
Yeah, because, I mean, at that time, at the height, it was $6 or $7 million, and most people would just be 100% happy with that. And then you shifted to Marine Essentials.
I shifted, but there was also market forces happening that were affecting those businesses, just so everyone knows. I didn't just close down and jump ship. It was right around 2009. So 2008, everything crashed, and dentists were no longer spending money on group coaching clubs like they probably are today. They're probably back doing that. And I knew that I either, A, had to go deeper into their offices and create more of a consulting program, which I did not want to do at all, or create a turnkey online marketing division that we did a lot for them. So one of the things I did is I said to one of my employees at the time, Greg Prestes, I said, look, dude, here's the thing. This is what's going to happen to our business in the next 3 to 6 months. So what I can do is give you a severance right now. You go start this business. I'll be your number one referral. And I think like he was making more money within 2 months being out of my business, starting his own turnkey like search engine ranking, local search business, and he's still kicking ass today. That's 6 years ago. 100% him though, like that's all him. I do not want to take any credit for that. It was just the dynamics were shifting, and then the staff business, I sold that division. So there were things that were happening, and I thought, it's probably a good opportunity to start to transition.
Yeah. So I want to talk about Marine Essentials starting, but I know you like talking about future and current. So I want to start in, you mentioned some rebranding stuff that's going on.
Well, so I've had Marine Essentials for like, almost 7 years. And at our height, we did around $30 million, a little under $30 million in 1 year, and then made a ton of mistakes on hiring and then infrastructure development from a tech perspective. So that was a few years ago. There's a few things that happened this year that put closure on some of those relationships in a really nice way. I kind of had a discussion with myself, which is like, look, I have a lot of phenomenal assets sitting right here. We're still doing, a few million a year. And the path and plan with social media nowadays to reinvigorate the business and double it and triple it, in my opinion, has never been like potentially easier. I don't want to say it's easy, but I think it's potentially a lot easier than it's ever been.
Mm-hmm.
And so, so I brought on a couple new team members, and we're just going back at it, And so that's kind of on the supplement side. That's where it's at, and it's amazing how once you ride a bicycle, you know how to ride a bike, and so.
Talk about time collapsing. I mean, when you were starting Marine Essentials, time collapsed. So talk about like in the very beginning when you started it.
When I started, I made a lot of mistakes.
Right.
I was listening to the wrong people, and I lost like $150,000 out of the gate.
From doing what?
Blew up my merchant account. Well, because we created a whole product offering around giving a free trial, and at the time, a lot of the courses that were out there teaching guys were like, "Oh, you can make $30,000, $50,000 a day," and they were doing free trials. What most people don't realize, there's so many things, there's so many traps when it comes to the free trial market. And what I mean by that is I'll just kind of give everybody like the insect thing. Yeah. Is that, there's people buy stolen credit cards online and then will go in, if they're getting paid a $30 commission, they'll go in and sign up for these free trials using a stolen credit card. And by the time anyone knows what is going on, you've already paid out the commission, and the bank doesn't realize it's a fake one. You've paid $30. You're supposed to be getting your second rebill, which would be say $50 or say $69 in 15 days. That never goes through. And so I was just working with the wrong. There's definitely ways to mitigate that, but I was working with the wrong people who really didn't take care of
the merchant
relationship. No, fraud. It's called fraud traffic. And what happens is it's just so crazy. Your listeners are gonna be like, "This is just crazy," but they'll send in they'll go now the day now would be like, okay, they go get like 2 sales on Facebook. They put one fraud sale in, so you don't really catch it because it's only 1 out of 3 or 1 out of 5. And then all of a sudden, when you lower your risk tolerance or whatever, one day they'll throw 30 or 40 or 50 through, and you get 100 sales. And you're like, man, I'm going to be rich. Well, in 15 days, only 35 or 40% of your sales go through, but you paid out commission on 60% more than that. So this happened to me, and then, I allowed that to happen because I didn't know better. So now I know better. So we stayed in the business. I stayed in the business. I shut down that business, and I stayed into it, and I grinded it out. I hired consultants that I trusted, that I learned from, and man, the book has a ton of our stories. I have some videos up on our website on just sharing more in depth about the health supplement business, but there's a lot of things that can go wrong. And so one of the things that I do with our consulting and our coaching clubs is and I'm not pitching everybody on this, but it's like one of the things we do is we time collapse their capability of going from 0 or even having some success to, it's their success. But my job is to mitigate all their risk by coaching them on my lessons and then introducing them to people who are quote unquote good in the business, So that's what we do, and I have some guys in the supplement business, some guys in the health information business. We have some clients that are consultants,
I mean, I say the time collapse because even before you...
I have a friend, Ed Clay runs a hospital down in Mexico. He's in our group, So kind of interesting,
He's amazing. I say that because before you had that campaign with the initial offer that you lost money, you would create the product and the team and consult before then, didn't you?
No.
So that was after, for the actual product creation.
The Marine D3 that took off and still does very well today, that was after.
That was after. I gotcha.
Yeah. So there was somebody who was helping me, but I didn't really realize that he was getting a piece of the action from the traffic guys on the side, and so I was like the guy at the poker table that didn't realize there was a different game going on.
Right. That's horrible.
Yeah. So when stuff blew up, I was the only one that was left with the bad hand.
I see.
Saw my money.
So the next iteration was the Marine Essentials, and talk about the first campaign because I find it interesting.
The first campaign was in direct mail. I don't, that's what you're referring to.
Yes, it is. Yeah,
direct mail, 60,000 pieces, 2 different tests, and it pulled pretty well out of the gate. And then,
what did you send in the mail?
A Magalog, like a 16-page, full color.
Wow,
looks like a catalog.
You went all out on the first mail.
Yeah, I spent like $30,000 on the copywriter, and then we were doing it as I really wanted to grow this company to like $100 million company. What I didn't know in hindsight was that I should have had $1 million. I should have either raised $1 million or just known that I needed or get a line of credit for $1 million. So when you go into that business, the speed of turnover of cash flow and acquiring more customers and having a lot more products to market to your existing customers becomes a much more important element. So
you didn't write the copy for it?
No, I've done most of what's online, and but no, I hired a pro level. So here's the thing. Here's a really good tip. If you're gonna go into a media that, it's the whole. If you have a gun to your head, you got to make this work, or else your kids are gonna die, and and you're going into a new media, which is called direct mail, and you're like a pro. But that's like the pro wrestler going into an MMA ring, and he doesn't understand that you can get kicked in the head, and when you take people down, they know how to defend a wrestler, right? So you got to know what arena you're in, which actually there's a whole chapter about know the landscape, the rules, and the lies. Mm-hmm. And so we went and hired, I got a doctor involved. We had a lot, we had a pro level team.
Yeah, 100%. And another lesson learned from Marine Essentials that'd be important for people? I know there's a couple things that stick out. Interesting stuff with email drops, and then what you discover with the offers. But I'm curious for you, what sticks out to you?
Well, I'll just give one super high level, which is a great tip, is just, offer crazy offers to your existing customers right out the gate about where they could buy a lot more, like a 10-pack bundle, 6-pack bundle, and save 40%, because here's the deal. They're in a buying mode, and they may never come back to your store ever again. So give them more offers of big stuff, and don't inhibit. like we talk about this value ladder thing of like, of going from step 1 to step 2, step 3, step 4. There's truth to that. Like there's the awareness, there's interest, but then there's other people like hyper responding buyers like me. If I see something I like, I just freaking let me
You
buy.
just want to go and get it.
And there's about 20% of your, or maybe even 12%, maybe 1% of your buyers might be that way. But cater to them, give them more opportunity. And because they may make way more money than 70% of your other guys, and that will give you the revenue to acquire a lot more customers and profitably.
Yeah. Ed, this has been fantastic. I have one last question. I know you have 7 kids to get to. You have 3 businesses. You have to get to do a full Kokoro workout today.
I already got my work. My reps in. I'm good.
But before I ask it, we can point people towards the EdO'KeefeShow.com, TimeCollapsing.com. Where else should people check out online?
That's cool. That's good. Ed O'Keefe Show. If people like going to seminars, we do our Nashville event. We're planning on doing that again in 2017 and 2018. Like make that a
highly
thing.
Recommend it.
We have a health supplement intensive that we're probably going to have come out here shortly.
Mm-hmm.
Which I'll walk people through for 2 days, everything they need to know. Go check out knowfoods.com. Go get some
KNOW.
Yeah, knowfoods.com. Get the waffles, or go to Amazon Fresh. Get the waffles. You're gonna be like, and they have donuts coming out. Oh my God, it's crazy.
So last question.
Yeah, last question.
Maybe it's two. One, I want to get your fun facts, but the question I was going to ask was if there's some kind of crazy birth story with 7 kids, some crazy family story.
Oh, geez.
But the fun fact, you said you had 2 fun facts that were sticking out in your head.
Crazy birth. My mom would know the birth story. She knows all. she really knows. She's like, oh, like, I don't know if I was hard coming out or if I was easy coming out.
Not you. I mean your kids. Like you and your...
Geez. Okay, so you want to know my kids.
Yeah.
We had some crazy stuff going on. So like our first 2 children, like Michael and Grace, like both of them were impossible to come into this world. So actually, one fun fact is that like my wife might kill me for sharing this, but like
I don't want her killing you.
The last 5 kids came out cesarean section. It's 4 C-sections. Just mad.
Why would she be mad at you for that?
What's that?
Why would she?
I don't know.
Oh.
Might be like, why are you sharing that? But whatever. I mean, it is what it is. I would say that I'll tell you one more quick thing about Grace. Like, so when Grace was born, she had the cord wrapped around her neck twice. She came out white as a ghost. Did not cry for like the first I don't think she cried. I think they pulled her out and they immediately rushed her off.
Wow.
And so, my wife and I went down to the NICU. I think it was NICU, and the lady was trying to explain to us like the oxygen, how she was on oxygen, she's intubated, and how she's not really breathing on her own or some shit like that. She did a bad job explaining it.
That's not a good time to do a bad job explaining something, but yeah.
It really was, yeah. It was like 2:30 in the morning. And so okay, she'll be on this probably for a day or so, and then as she gets stronger, she'll be able to breathe on her own, right? And so it wasn't until like I think like around 7 a.m., maybe even a little bit like they called our room and they're like, your daughter is off the intubator. You can come see her. So I come and I'm like, hey Nola, you want me to push you down? And Nola was out, out of it. And she goes, no, just go. So I went down there, and man, I'll tell you. So I opened the door, and the first baby right there was Grace, and she was crying. Her big eyes crying at me, and I just put my arms like over her, and I just started bawling. And in that moment, Jeremy, my heart was now no longer in my chest. It was taken from me. Yeah. And so I was trying to explain it to her the other day. She goes, you mean I broke your heart? And I'm like, no, you stole my heart.
How old is she now?
12.
12, okay.
12. And so I think,
yeah,
that was one of a very special moment. And then, after that, it's all easy. No, I'm kidding. They're all. I think the one thing about parenting that I think is always interesting is you never realize how different your kids are. Like they're just different. Like you're like, you mean that you both came from the same parents and you are just two totally different spiritual like things out here.
Yeah.
So we love it. We have a great time with it. I would say to everybody, you have permission to be kind and patient to yourself as a parent.
Yeah.
Because it's not an easy job. And if you don't have kids and you don't want kids, well, you have permission to be patient with yourself as well.
Ed, phenomenal. Thank you so much. Anyone who has a chance to check out what Ed is doing, his stuff, his conference, his book.
You didn't ask my fact, man.
That was, how can I top a story about you and your daughter Grace? I mean,
all right. Next time we'll do a fun fact.
if you want to share them, go ahead. I know you have to go.
No,
but,
no,
okay.
no, you gotta make your
Okay,
listening.
next time.
Let's
Yeah.
create a vlog
But this was phenomenal, Ed. Thank you so much. People should check out No Foods. They should check out the EdO'KeefeShow.com, Time Collapsing. You're a special person. I appreciate you. Thank you.
What I got, you can't buy. It resides between my eyes. Walked through the fire, came out better on the other side. See, life's like a beach if you find the sand. And right now, I feel like 100 grand.